Hello everybody, my name is Haydn and welcome to my channel. I'm a full-time software engineer based in London. In this video, I'm going to give you my personal insights of how junior developers can fast-track themselves to becoming better devs. My first tip will be make the code base 1% better every time you touch it. So if you've been assigned a feature or a bug or some sort of test to write, what you should do is when you're writing your main focus of your code or your feature, you should be looking around the code base trying to see, can I make this 1% better? The kind of rule of thumb here is always leave a file in a better place than you found it. So if you are in a file writing a new feature and you think, oh, it's a bit clunky the way they've done that, you can refax that and rewrite that. Or maybe you go, oh, I've had to do this multiple times here, here, and here. Why don't you take the time to just make it 1% better? If you do that every time you touch a piece of code or every time you touch a file, your code base will have such a compound interest and get so much better in such a short space of time. Another part of this is always writing less, more efficient and succinct code, because it's easier to maintain then and a lot easier to reason about, rather than holding multiple variables in your head about this does that and that does this. If you can write that really succinct, really short, really small, only a few lines of code, it makes it so much easier to reason about and work with. My second tip for junior developers is if you are writing a feature, write a new test. It's so obvious, this one, but it's missed all the time. If you're writing a new feature in the code base, you need to be writing a new test to test that feature and make sure it works. You also need to write multiple tests to make sure that every different input that you're passing to it makes it work, and also write tests that break it, that you expect, if I give this, it should break this thing. Test it, test it, test it. New feature, new test. Which leads me on to my third tip of raising merge requests or pull requests early and getting feedback on them as quick as you can. So when you're writing a new feature or something in a code base, what I'd recommend doing is once you've got kind of the scaffolding there and you think it's relatively kind of in that shape where you think it's kind of your ideas now in the code, raise an MR, start getting people to look at it and going, hey, is this the right way to go down? Should I do something different? You'll quickly find that people will go, oh, actually, what you should be doing is this, or oh, maybe you should look at this, or oh, it's probably a lot easier if you do it this way. You'll get so much more done that way because your MR will be raised. People can see what you're doing. People can understand if you're on the right track, and they'll repoint you if you're not. And they'll also be able to give you their insights about how they would solve the problem as well. Which leads me on to another point of once you've done this, you'll probably get comments on your kind of new code or your merge request, pull request. Take the opportunity to read those comments, go through them, understand them. This is an opportunity for you to learn and develop yourself here. So if you've raised a merge request or a pull request and someone's gone, hey, it would be really good if you use this framework, or hey, it would be really good if you use this coding paradigm, and you go, oh, that's weird, I don't know about that. Why don't you go off and Google it and understand it and work it out? They're probably saying that so you can go off and understand it and read about it yourself and then implement that. So it's a great way for you to take the opportunity to get that comment and then learn from that comment. This leads me on to my next point of do not raise MRs at the last minute, just before you're about to go to production or just before you're kind of merging into the master branch or your main branch. Do not raise them very last minute and just expect people to improve them. This will, never work. People will, you can't make changes that quickly if someone puts comments on your MR and you're going to be merging something in that the rest of your team might not be happy with. So always do never, ever raise MRs at the last minute. Leads me on to a very similar point here. Do not leave feedback on MRs till the last minute. If somebody has requested feedback on their MR, don't ignore it. And then just before they're ready going, okay, has anyone got any last comments on this? And then, put in 50 comments on their MR. That is a sure way to, they're going to be so annoyed at you if you do that. And because they think, oh, well, no one's commented, everyone must be happy, so I'll just keep going. And then you've gone through and do loads of comments. Do not do that, please do. It's just going to annoy people. So, those two, this one and the previous tip is kind of combined. Don't raise MRs at the last minute, and don't also leave feedback on MRs till the last minute as well. Get them in early and do them as quick as you can. It's the best way to just get that continuous feedback loop. So when you are reviewing an MR and somebody leaves a comment, what you should do is assume that the person doesn't know what you're talking about. Because if they did, they probably would have done the thing that you were talking about. So your comments and descriptions and kind of requests to change on your MR should include as much detail as you need in order to explain the topic to them. So it should be links, it should be examples, it should be anything you need that kind of supports your comment. Because I think a lot of people tend to write comments on a merge request and go, you should do this. But really, the developer that's raised that MR doesn't know about the thing that you're telling them. So, just point to them in a general direction. Is it going to help? What you need to do is explain to them why that is a better way of doing it than what they've currently done, and then they'll learn from that and move forward. So always assume that the developer that's raised that code request doesn't know what you're talking about, and if they did, they probably would have done it anyway. This leads me on to my next one of do not merge anything broken into the main branch or the master branch of your builds. This is just bad practice. Do not get in the habit of that. Don't think I'll merge it in and then, fix it later, because the kind of rule of thumb is you should always keep the main branch of your kind of code base working, and that should always work. So you should never kind of cause issues there, because if somebody happens to pull down that branch whilst haven't done your fix yet, they're going to get broken. They're going to waste time investigating. So definitely don't do that. This leads me on to my next point, where if you physically cannot address the comment that is being asked for you, but your code does work, and you've got to merge it in, come back and address that as quick as possible. Leave a little to-do there, leave a little note to say that, I'm going to come back and address that, and we need to change this kind of now on your to-do list in order to come back and fix that. You shouldn't leave that for somebody else to do. That should be kind of on your kind of plate in order to fix that and come back to that. So if you physically can't address the comment because it's such a big change that, it's going to be a whole nother, it'll be easier to view that change in another merge request or pull request, then, go away and merge it in, but come back as quick as you possibly can in order to fix that. Another tip that I will give you, and this is the one I do the most on myself, and it's kind of where I get my ability to review code from, is once I've raised the MR, I actually review my own code. So I tend to actually write comments on my own code to go, actually, I think it might be a better way to do it like this, or hey, has anyone, think of a better way I can handle this situation, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it gets you in two minds, because it then kind of detaches yourself from your code and you're looking at it from a fresh point of view. But what you want to be doing there is you want to be going through your code and pretending it's somebody else's code, and looking for bits where you think, oh, actually, why have they done this? Or that's not very clear. Maybe that function should be split out or abstracted out. When you can see it in the diff and you can see the lines of code changing it, sometimes it's easier. But as a big tip is just once you've raised your merge request or pull request, go through and actually review it yourself and see if it makes sense to you. Because if it doesn't make sense to you, the person that's wrote it, then it's hardly going to make sense to somebody else. Fill out the description of the merge request, make a sensible title, things like that. Go through your own merge request and actually review it. So my final and my favorite tip for this would be use code coverage, formatting, linter tools or automated tools in order to make your code better. So things like Black, MyPy, Flake8, iSort, things like this that will run over your code and tell you about issues before you've even got to them. So a few of them are code formatting tools I've listed there. They just make your code look all the same. So when you are reviewing code, everything looks the same. It's easy to reason about for everybody on your team. But some of them, like Flake8 and MyPy, are linters. They'll tell you about things that maybe different types that have gone wrong, or things that you should do that are kind of the correct standard way. These are very Python specific, but there'll be similar tools like this in all languages that you can look at. So that's a really good way to kind of just flush out problems before you've even got it in front of a human to look at, because these automated tools will run, tell you about the issues you've got, and then you can address them there and then. There we go. There's my 10 tips for becoming a better developer and fast-tracking yourself to becoming that superstar, rockstar developer on your team. If you like this video, you're probably going to like my pre-commit hooks tutorial video. I'll link that here so you can check that out as well. But thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I hope you have a great day. See you later.